Hey, what's up, everybody? Eric Soul Box, January 2nd. Happy New Year. Not in the shop today. I powder coated some boxes yesterday, and so I'm just out here getting my assembly on. And I thought, you know, maybe I would show how I assemble a lid. And so, you know, once I figure out how something works, try to be consistent in doing the same thing. Figure out how best to do something and then consistently do it that way. One thing I really struggled with for a long time was how to get these hinges to end up on the lid so that they're perfectly straight. And I tried all kinds of different stuff. And eventually what I came up with was to actually fold the hinge in onto the lip of the lid there, and then set it on something that's perfectly flat, and it'll actually push it to where they're both completely square with the rest of the lid. When these lids are manufactured, I don't drill all the holes in them. Final assembly, so I only end up doing one hole. See, each of the hinges takes two rivets to attach it, but I only do one of the two holes so that I can make sure that everything ends up perfectly in line with the rest of the lid. And if it's not in line, it won't open and close correctly. And so what I've learned over the course of time is just to do one of them. That basically gets it to where it basically needs to be, but then the final adjustment part of it, I can drill that second hole, rivet it into place, and then it's done. Things like the footman loops, I could drill both of these because I know that there's a little bit of wiggle room when I go to put them on. Every piece that goes onto it is done with the same exact rivet, and so there's just a little bit of wiggle room in there, and so I can by eye make sure that that's exactly where it needs to be. And so anyhow, getting these to where they were perfectly straight with the rest of the lid, struggled with that for a long, long time before I finally came up with a good game plan for how to get it right. And so this works for me. New drill, got this over at the Harbor Freight 20 volt. I've been running the hell out of these DeWalt 12 volt ones. I like these because they're really light. And finally another one. It's taken me, geez, like 10 or 11 years to kill two of those. I still have two of them left, but I was working on something out on Whidbey Island a few weeks ago and didn't have a drill with me. They've got a Harbor Freight out there now, and so I ran and grabbed this for, I think this was like 60 bucks. This thing is awesome. Very, very pleased with the quality of this. As these continue to die off, I may go to these. It's a little heavier when you've got to use something like this all day. It's nice to have a nice lightweight tool. Like, I don't need an abundance of torque, 12 volt. These have always done it for me. Anyhow, like the tool very much. This riveter, air rivet tool, his name's Tupac, you can see why. So anyway, this tool, getting it dialed in to where it works 100% of the time has always been, you know, once it's dialed and working correctly, it's great, but there's a lot of finicky, like, adjustment type of stuff that can be done on these. I had a couple of air riveters from Harbor Freight. They offered two different ones. Both of them were awful. Like, I spent more time screwing with them, trying to get them to run accurately and consistently than it was worth. I can't remember what the name brand is on this one, but this one has actually, oh, this is a Jet, I believe, and it has been just night and day better. I've been running this one for probably the last, I guess, like maybe 7 years. Got my money out of that and would, in a heartbeat, buy another one if this one should happen to stop working. So now I'm working on the latch for the front of, show you. The twist latch meets with this on the front of the box. Getting these square was a pain in the ass for a long time too. your eye, the human eye, can really pick it up if something's not perfectly square. It's really, I mean, square is square. There's no sort of about it, right? So anyhow, what I ended up, I struggled with this for a long time too. Like I tried like pinching it with like a plier to hold it in place while I drilled it, all kinds of stuff. What ended up actually working is just a little scrap piece of aluminum slipped through this slot. And then once again, on a flat surface, if I push down, it'll actually register with the lid. And so it makes it 100% perfectly square. It took me a long time to come up with that game plan. And boy, these were a lot harder to deal with for a long time than the hinges. And so, but like I said, once I've got something that works, that's just how I do it. So if I push down on this, I know that this is perfectly square with the rest of the lid. There we go, nice and square, nice and square. Now just the footman loops and bungee. How I came up with the idea for having this bungee thing on top, I always thought that sea kayaks were really cool, and they always have like that cross pattern of bungee on there where you can attach extra gear. I just always thought that looked cool, and so that's really where the bungee system originally came from for the tops of the solo box lids. The thing is, it doesn't just look cool, it's really highly functional too. Dry bag with all your clothes and stuff, easily put on the top of one of these lids. Even small stuff, like you don't want to wear your gloves anymore, stick them underneath that piece of bungee. They'll be there when you arrive. One nice thing about it is it really expands your storage. Like your high volume, lightweight stuff, certainly capable of carrying it on top of the box, you know? Like clothing, your sleep system, tent, things like that that take up just a lot of volume that probably have their own dry bag anyway. You may as well just stick on top of the box and use the box as actual storage for stuff that is maybe a little bit more important. Once again, I'm just eyeballing these to where they're straight. Even though I like this riveter better, it still generally takes 2 pulls to get it to pull one of these. It would be nice if it did it in one, but there just isn't enough hydraulic throw inside of the mechanism itself. How this works is there's a piston in here and it actually fills up with air. It's pushed up in there. And when you pull this, it releases that air out of there, and there's some hydraulic fluid up in here. And when it releases, that's what causes this mechanism to pull. But it just doesn't have quite enough pull to actually break one of these aluminum rivets off in one fell swoop. Every once in a while, I'll end up with the hole is just slightly off, and I can do just like I did there and move it slightly. I don't know if that's a variance in the footman loop itself. Probably just, you know, it was slightly longer. So anyhow, there's the lid. So the hinges on my lids also, you can actually set them, the tension in the hinge itself, so that when it opens, it'll hold it right where you want it and put the amount of tension it takes to close it. If you set it just right, it's almost like hydraulics. It'll drop just like this, which is pretty cool. But anyhow, that's how you adjust the amount of tension that goes into it, is right here on each end. So anyhow, there's a lid. This set's actually going to ship today, so I should probably get on with putting this together and getting the order out of here. So anyway, Eric Solbox, talk to you guys later.